G'day. It's been a while, I know. I have recorded a few poems and things, most notably those of Mr. Banjo Patterson. But my podcasts lately had been replaced by live streams on YouTube. Killing two birds with one stone, you might say. It's like my podcast audience could access me on YouTube by just playing the streams which I left up. And I'd also attracted quite a growing audience of BBW lovers because, as I've talked about before, raising awareness of the fat disorder Lipoedema from which I suffer has caused me to sort of bear all or wear less clothes than I would have in previous decades in order to explain how Lipoedema affected not only my body but my mental health, and how I'm taking back my space and my power, and just if I want to wear a swimsuit to the beach and walk into the water along the beach without having to put a towel or sarong around me because of criticism on my plus size body, now I just go ahead and do it because I feel I was robbed of decades of my life. I allowed myself to be robbed of decades of my life by fat shamers, and so I'm not going to allow that to happen anymore. So I had started podcasting live on YouTube from the bath and on the trampoline in the backyard, and I was wearing like bikinis or shorts, or in the bath, nothing at all, obviously, except loads of bubbles, in order to talk about Lipoedema and feminism and the male gaze. I explained many times how Lipoedema was had affected me. June was Lipoedema Awareness Month, so I put loads of stuff up on the body positive movement and Lipoedema awareness. And then a couple of weeks ago, I did a podcast from the bath, and I mentioned a few things while I was podcasting, but one of them I mentioned was the arrest of the producer of the Friendly Geordies YouTube channel. And Friendly Geordies is an Australian YouTube channel that is satirical and political investigative journalism by a chap called Jordan Sparks and his producer Christo. Christo's only about 22 years old. He goes to uni in Sydney and he works on the channel. Good blokes doing good work, revealing the corruption of the New South Wales Liberal government and the Liberal government in Australia in general. When I say the Liberal government in Australia, is a bit of a misnomer because the Conservative Party in Australia named themselves the Liberal Party when they were formed in 1948 by Rupert Murdoch's father Keith and Pig Iron Menzies. But they are in by no way are the Liberal Party of Australia considered small L Liberals. They are big C's. Conservatives, of course. Anyway, I was talking about Friendly Geordies' arrest and that sort of thing. I suggest you go to the YouTube channel of Friendly Geordies and check out the video Arrested for full context. I was talking about that and other stuff, and then I got a notification that I had a week ban off YouTube because of nudity. And I thought, well, okay, there must be a nip slip in the bath. Whatever, I'll take it on the chin. It must have, even though I find it ludicrous, because obviously when I was podcasting from the bath, or even just podcasting, I talk about adult themes, I talk about sexuality, I talk about politics, I talk about feminism, I talk about the male gaze, I talk about my body, I talk about working in the sex shop, I will talk about working on the fringes of the sex industry, that sort of thing. It's all my life experience, and it's all adult themes. It's all terribly amusing. It makes for very many funny stories. But I don't, I emphasise while podcasting from the bath, or streaming from the bath, or on the trampoline a few times, just in the backyard, that while I was very appreciative of the ever-growing audience I was attracting that was largely male, I was not there for their self-gratification. Like, a few of them made jokes about, basically putting me in the wank bank, and I was like, well, what you choose to do is entirely your business. You don't need to tell me about it at all. And I'm only really sort of interested in engaging with the audience who are actually listening to what I have to say and want to contribute, intelligent responses to the topics I raise and have some respectful debate, or, but my main hope, and I expressed this many times, was that somewhere out there, by podcasting from the bath or whatever, there might be a woman who is able to be diagnosed with lipedema and better her health and her well-being because of it through my activism. But, okay, if there's a nipple slip, whatever, the whole thing is ludicrous, because if a man shows his nipples on YouTube, nothing gets cancelled. And the state of the human body is not offensive in any way. And if all my content is marked as 18 plus, particularly the live stuff, then who is it offending anyway? No one, unless you're some sort of religious nutbag. And if you're a religious nutbag, well, fucking go and watch a church channel or something. You don't need to be watching my channel. If it's offensive, click away. Go somewhere else. But anyway, so I got a 1 week ban for nudity, and I thought, whatever. And then during the 1 week ban, I thought, well, I wonder if it was really about the nudity of, a nipple, a stray nipple, or I wonder if it was some conservative incel that didn't like my politics, and the nipples was just giving them an excuse to report me and have the talk about friendly Geordies disappeared. So I thought, well, what I will do next time was when I come back to stream, which is what I did on Saturday, just gone, I put on a pair of Fashion Nova underwear, very cute little pink leopard skin number, very strappy at the back, not much at the back except loads of straps, but it was definitely, everything was covered, you couldn't see a thing. I put those on, and then I went live. You couldn't see anything. In fact, when I got into the bath, which was very foamy, I left my knickers on. I didn't even take them off before or in the bath. I had my knickers on in the bath just to, so that YouTube censors wouldn't have any excuse to give me another week ban or take down my content or whatever. And while I was streaming and everything was going well, I had about 9 people online and stuff, which is, at the time that I was doing it, which is, okay to start with. And because I leave them up, they get hundreds of thousands of views, not hundreds of thousands, hundreds, if not thousands, of views once they were up. It's not always about who was catching it at the time. They searched for it afterwards. So I was building up my audience. I had about 2,500 subscribers. I'm in the bath podcasting on Saturday afternoon. People are like having a bit of banter with me, and I'm talking about things, and I realise, maybe I've talked a bit too much, or I'm not. And I was not showing any skin, I noticed, because I just my shoulders showing in the frame of the camera. I'm just using my phone. There was only basically my shoulders showing in the bath, and I noticed that I'd lost my viewers, and I thought, they must be bored with the politics. So I went to end the stream, and lo and behold, YouTube informed me an error had occurred, and when I tried to go to my channel, it said that the channel had been banned. Like, they didn't just ban me from broadcasting or putting up any uploads for a week, which was like the prior warning. Like when I got the 1 week ban, that said, if this happens again, you can't upload or go live again for another week. But if it happens again, then you might have to have another 2 week ban or another 1 week ban or something. And I thought, well, I will try to avoid another ban by wearing knickers in the bath while I talk about Lipoedema and stuff, and friendly Geordies, and see if it was just the nudity, if it was the friendly Geordies thing that was like, someone has it in for me. And lo and behold, they didn't ban me for a week or 2 weeks or a month or at all. They removed my entire YouTube channel. So it's not just that the live streams that were taken down. It means like the last 10 years, including private videos that I had of my baby that I'd made private so that, for security concerns, they've all gone. I have hard copies of most things. Of course, the podcasts of Finding Island Funny and Never Mind the Buzz Ducks are still available on Spotify and all good streaming platforms, thanks to Spreaker. But I can't, while they are automatically shared to YouTube at the time that I record them, I'll have to work out a way of re-uploading them to a new YouTube channel. But yes, the mystery is, of course, why YouTube decided that my bath streams were such a danger to society that I had to be completely removed. I mean, I know everyone talks about the cancel culture recently, and conservatives going berserk, saying like, social media, according to Fox News, is trying to cancel all the right-wingers like Trump and the conspiracy theorists and the climate change denialists and the Bible bashers and all that. They all claim that they're being cancelled whenever they say awful hate speech on private platforms. And yet somehow like an Aussie comedian who is streaming from her own bath in her own house in a country where, Sharia law is not in place, there's absolutely no logical or legal reason why I should not have the human right to just stream my own podcasts or shows from my bath, whether I'm dressed or not, in a free bloody country, is there? I mean, in fact, during my bath streams, I would often point out that, you know, it's almost an act of radical feminism because there's so many women in the world that don't have the human rights of free speech or being able to wear what they want or do what they like in public or attend school. And that was part of the point of my art, part of the point of my work. It's like the male pseudo-intellectuals who brand themselves the thinkers of the 21st century, like Jordan Peterson and stuff, they only ever talk about women as second-class citizens or as objects of other people's art or discussion or history. Whereas I want to make the point that the women in the paintings, the women in the photos, the women in the stories, the women like Sylvia Beach who paid for James Joyce's book to be published, they deserve to have their own voice. And in this era of technological advancement where I can actually film myself, record my thoughts and post it immediately to a global audience, I was sort of seizing the opportunity and seizing the day to sort of make a video record of my thoughts as I develop from a maiden to a mother to a crone. And it's all about my changing body, my life experience, raising awareness for lipedema, just the sheer deconstructing the absolute ridiculous religious myth that has brainwashed everyone into wanting to hide women's bodies away. It's like a woman should have the right to walk drunk and naked down the main street of town without anyone laying a hand on her. And rape culture is not going to go away if, like, a woman in the bath is deemed, like, so offensive that her entire channel is taken down, and Google, because Google owns YouTube, and so everything that is tied up with your YouTube channel is tied up with your Google account, start sending out emails saying I'm never allowed to hold a YouTube channel again, as though I'm, it's insane. It's not as though I'm going around like beheading hostages in the Middle East, and posting the videos up with with ransom demands. I'm in the bath. And I even said during the last stream, before I was cut off and my channel banned, I'm not doing anything sexual in the bath. Like, I'm just chatting. Like, I've seen YouTube videos where women are literally masturbating in the bath, and having orgasms. And because they're all doing it, like, below the line of the bath and the camera is set at the other end of the bathroom, there's nothing explicitly shown visually, they just get away with it. They could pretend that they were faking it, I suppose. Whereas I am just sitting in the bath having a chat about the female form through history and egalitarianism and feminism and lipedema and fat shaming, and my entire channel has been banned. It seems somewhat out of proportion. But the biggest mystery really is not just why YouTube decided that, my nudity was more heinous than anyone else's nudity. The real question is, who was it that reported me? Who was it that clicked on this video is offensive or whatever, so that it was investigated in the first place? it seems mad that anyone would take the time out of their day to say this is an offensive video when all I'm doing is sitting in the bath. When they could just navigate away from the page and go and watch something else. Like, there's an off button on YouTube. They could shut the laptop. They could turn the phone off. They could just, leave, say this isn't my cup of tea. But instead, someone went out of their way to make sure that not only was I reported once, but maybe twice, but put in an egregious enough complaint so that somehow my entire channel was removed. And my entire channel had more than just my entire channel had more than the bath streams in it, obviously. As I said, it had years and years of footage capture from around Australia and Ireland, funny stuff, the podcast, as I said, just my Great Danes, and it's all gone. And people might say, oh, well, you knew the community guidelines on YouTube and you still chose to go on there with your nips out, so you knew the consequences. And that is fair enough. I accept the responsibility of yes, I'm aware that there are community guidelines for YouTube and they have nudity things and that sort of thing. But my point is, I wasn't doing anything sexual or explicit. In fact, when I put on the Fashion Nova knickers today to cover up anything that could be remotely considered as, frontal nudity, I even made the point to say that those knickers, leopard print G-string, is more sexually titillating than just surely the body in its natural state. So isn't that perversely, isn't that sort of, doesn't it defeat the point of censorship if by putting more on you're becoming more suggestive? I mean, I was making the point in the bath when I was streaming before I was cut off that that while I am a BBW stands for Big Beautiful Woman, and I identify as a BBW in order to spread lipedema awareness and defeat fat shaming, reclaim my space. But it does not mean that I'm subservient in any way to the men who go online to pervert BBWs. So I had no intention of dressing in lingerie and folding washing. There are literally YouTube channels out there where there are women hurting themselves by force feeding themselves lemon meringue pies, or they're folding laundry or mopping the floors or something and doing all these degrading, subservient, second-class citizen sort of thing while men tell them to do it for clicks and for money. That's hurting themselves. That's anti-women's health. What I was doing was pro-women's health, spreading awareness about the damage that fat shaming does to women's mental health, spreading awareness about lipedema as a fat disorder that affects 11% of women, and telling my own personal journey of how I was bedridden with lipedema, and spent a lot of time in the bath with lipedema, which is why I was in the bath. It was the point of the exercise, to show it. And I had liposuction, so I've regained my health. So I'm trying to spread awareness about it. And nothing I was doing was reviewing. You see, I'm a libertarian and I believe everything should be talked about. I think it's great that there are YouTube channels where I thought there was a YouTube channel a few years ago, like about 7 years ago, where a woman, all she ever did was like review sex toys and different strains of cannabis. I think that's fucking fantastic. She lived in California, so she can do that. I can't do that because I live in Ireland. But she's not hurting anyone. There's nothing offensive about it. Cannabis is legal in most states in America. It's legal in most places in the world. And it should be. And cannabis should be legal in Ireland. It isn't yet. And sex toys aren't offensive. Adults have sex. As long as you're a consenting adult, not hurting children or animals. If you're a consenting adult, not hurting children or animals, you should be allowed to do whatever the hell you want. And talk about it as an adult with other adults. Since all my content was marked over 18, I don't see how anything could possibly be offensive. You have to be a consenting adult to even enter into my chat room. But this all brings me back to the original point. Who was it that dobbed me in? Who had an axe to grind? Now, I have talked before about every time I posted a YouTube video, whether it was of my Great Dane puppies or a podcast or anything, there was someone that would always thumbs down the video within hours of it going up. And sometimes they were like, it would only have a few views. Like some of my videos would have tens of thousands of views, and some would have a handful of views depending on the content or what was in them. It's all search terms and algorithms and bullshit like that. So, but no matter whether it was a big one or a small one, whatever, there was always someone who was making a point to immediately, as soon as I posted anything, to thumbs it down. I'd even started speculating about it on the, in the live streams, going like, is there someone out there who's got a problem with me, or is there someone out there who's got a problem with women, or what? It's like all very bizarre. But I thought, oh well, I hope that they're not violent or the stalker type, but whoever's doing it, perhaps it's just someone being cruel, or they want to frighten me by just being this weird thumbs downer. Or perhaps it's just one of those little butthurt incels that got booted out of Frances Higgins's YouTube streams for like antisocial behaviour years ago, and have got a weird bee in their bonnet, because I attracted a few of those onto my YouTube channel for a while, because I used to watch Frances Higgins' YouTube streams, and I used to comment a lot in the stream chat and interact. It was all a bit of banter. It was great crack. It was a bit it was a bit of a hobby, I guess, because I'm not really into well, it's a long story. I'm not really into telly. I was living more or less alone because the Fenian, my partner, was working away in Dublin, and one day I caught one of the Viper's streams, and he tickled me. He was interesting. I was intrigued, so I kept watching, and I sort of became part of the little stream community, because you do become a community even if you don't meet each other in person. In the virtual reality world, although you're not actually seeing each other in the flesh, you are still having a conversation with people day after day. And Frances Higgins was streaming like often several times a week, so you would literally like commenting and talking to people. Your message, it's as though you were having a text relationship with someone, but it's a one-way video channel. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's literally, now that there's a pandemic, of course, everyone is FaceTiming, everyone is just video calling all the time for hours on end, because they don't go in to visit anyone. But that's what streaming is. It's one long fucking video call to a big audience. And if you're doing it day in, day out, you do develop sort of like a rapport, an intimacy, I don't know, a connection with some and not so with others. But because I was around a lot in that and I was sort of like chatty, I don't know, it became a big a hobby of mine, because it was like there wasn't much wasn't much more to pique my interest. He just made me laugh so much, Mr. Francis Higgins. He's a very funny guy. So I'd watch his streams, but then occasionally there'd be people that behave badly in the streams and they'd get booted. And these little butthurt incels, and it's nothing to do with me. I didn't know Francis Higgins, I still don't. And I was posting up little things on YouTube, and they were just often little vignettes of, you know, things around things. And then at the point where I'd had very few subscribers and very few views, so I'd get excited if YouTube sent me a notification saying someone had commented on my video. And someone commented on my video, said Google once, so I clicked on the notification, and what was the comment on my video, which had just gone up, which was, you know, a kind of serious video too. It was some guy saying, "Oi, Mama Duck, tell Francis Higgins he's a big girl for like banning from his channel." Which was sort of gobsmacking, really, on so many levels. Because you think, like, I don't know Francis Higgins. Francis Higgins doesn't know me. Like, it's none of my business who he bans from his channel or not. B, look, you self-obsessed little man baby. Like, do you have any idea how inappropriate or rude it is to just turn up on someone else's YouTube channel and not even watch the video that they've put up, not even talk about the video that they've just put up, and use the comment section only to have a little whinge and a moan? Like, that means that guy has, like, got a real problem. Like, he's got a hang-up. Like, he's going around letting something that's really small, like, consume him if he's starting to, like, interfere with his ability to interact with other people by having to go around and, like, you know, troll other people's comment sections on YouTube videos that's got nothing to do with Francis Higgins. Do you know what I mean? So perhaps, like, it's one of those who just decided that Mama Duck was too big for her boots. Or maybe it's someone from the Irish comedy community who was previously associated with me when there were live gigs happening or something like that, and they've just decided that if their content was, like, associated with mine, and I'm now streaming with my boobs out, that they had to take me down. Like, that seems really silly. I know it does. But there are people who are so hung up about nudity or about women having a voice that they just have a total freak out. And they have to, rather than understand or listen, they'll just destroy a woman if she's a threat, or they perceive she's a threat. Or maybe it's just some Bible basher or religious zealot, because religious mania has no denomination, that thinks that, you know, women should be covered up and put at the back of the church and not allowed to show their bodies. Or maybe it's just some little skinny asshole that doesn't believe in Lipoedema or finds fat people disgusting, because I've certainly met a load of those in my life mostly in Australia, because people in Ireland are far more accepting, I find, of diverse body shapes. Perhaps it's just someone who owed me money. I don't know. Like, it's just bizarre to think about, isn't it? It's bizarre to think that one lone Aussie writer and comedian can sit in her bath and podcast and be entertaining people and informing people and building up a fan base, and I was literally just a few hundred hours off being able to monetize the YouTube channel. So that all of the hard work that I put in with like putting in the live hours and traveling over Ireland, making content. I went to Cork a few weeks ago and went live down there in Kinsale on YouTube. It wasn't a great video because I was only using my phone. It was a bit jerky, but it was still like, it still had a few views, and I was basically doing reconnaissance because I was going to start travelling around more and doing it. I had 2,500 subscribers, but a lot more people than that were watching, and it's just all been wiped. It's all been wiped, and it's just really dreadful to think that there is someone out there who did that on purpose. Putting aside the fact that it's ridiculous that YouTube would take down an entire channel over nipples, because there's nothing offensive about a human body. The only offensive thing about my naked body is it being censored by YouTube. Putting aside the ludicrous concept that nipples are offensive, it's kind of disturbing to think that there is someone out there that actually bothered to report me more than once or thumbs down me so many times that there could be a real lunatic out there. It could be one of those weird guys that you smile at once and then they think that means something more, and then they go around being morbidly rejected in their own head until they do something vicious. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But I thought I'd jump onto Spreaker and record a impromptu podcast about the whole thing, because there are those of you who contact me often to say they're really enjoying the YouTube videos where a lot of the podcasts were. But never fear. Nevertheless, she persisted. I will dust myself off and start all over again. This too shall pass. It does seem that somehow, after this crazy pandemic period has passed, it's somewhat disappointing, I suppose you could say, to think that all the time that there was lockdown and pandemic, I couldn't wait to see my friends and start gigging and comedy again, and mix and build up on the success I've already, achieved. And now that everyone's getting vaccinated and the lockdown's over in Ireland and pubs are opening and things are happening, I seem to have not only be back at square one, but even further back from square one, because Yep, I seem to be all by myself, all over again. I have 3 subscribers on my new YouTube channel. I have messages on my phone that I've sent to friends that have been unread for weeks. And I'm beginning to wonder what the hell I did in a past life. But still, onward and upward. I'm a comedian after all. And my sense of humour is what's kept me going. So, anyway, keep looking out for me. My podcast will be on Spotify, Spreaker, all those good things for a while, and I'll let you know exactly what the future holds for me as I, adjust once again to my new reality. I'd avoided TikTok and I'd avoided TikTok because TikTok's so invasive, and it's basically just loads of people following each other and having inane conversations but not producing anything original. They're just, lip syncing, doing dance challenges. It's just copying everyone else, talking about their consumer items, basically. It's just basically the panopticon of everyone having a massive community gossip online with cameras in their own houses. It's like a nationwide Big Brother is the Irish TikTok community. But it looks like I may have to just go over to TikTok, that dodgy Chinese spyware app, because YouTube and Google have just lost the plot, and someone out there might be making YouTube difficult for me. Whereas TikTok is less regulated because it's Chinese, and because I'm a comedian and I want to work in Ireland, I better get my face back out there and make sure it's on TikTok, I suppose, by engaging more. I'm going to go on Twitch. I've already been hanging about Twitch for a while, but I hadn't really bothered to do many live streams on Twitch simply because I had like 2,500 subscribers on YouTube and no followers on Twitch. So I was going to just get set up to play vinyl and do stuff on Twitch and then take my YouTube audience across. Now I've lost all my YouTube audience, so I'd have to start from scratch on everything, I guess. Whether it be Twitch, TikTok, YouTube. Got a few hundred followers on Instagram, but what can you do? It's a silly world. I don't, how can I express it? I don't even feel that like social media is, I would rather not. I really would rather not. I am fine with, the 1997 as an era, quite frankly, in some ways. Writing and books and no Facebook. That would be lovely. But you see, I can't say that in all honesty, because online has brought me so many opportunities and joy. Social media, contacts, random sort of connections. For all the trolls and the hate and the vendettas by weirdos out there, I have met some wonderful people and had some fabulous experiences just through social media. So a well-regulated social media might be the way of the future, but right now it's all just so terribly overwhelming, with wide disparities between the platforms. And as I say, why on earth would anyone take the trouble to ban me when there are like There are people with tiki torches screaming into a YouTube camera for hours on end about racism and war and religious myths and all kinds of lunacy and violence. And there's just me, peace-loving hippie, sitting in the bath saying it's about time we look at women's bodies differently. And they ban me completely. But never mind. Onward and upward, as I say. And I'm very grateful for anyone who still listens to my podcast, wherever it may be and however it may be. And I will see you when you got nothing on.